Hey guys, my name is Mayukh Raj Gattu, and if you're not subscribed to my channel, please subscribe so that you don't miss any uploads that I make. Anyway, today's topic is about the third part of the World War I series, so let's get started. Now, we will move on to 1917. By now, everyone was exhausted and sick of war and wanted peace, but it looked like peace was going to take some time, so the French decided to do an offensive to keep up pressure on the Germans. The offensive name was the Nivelle Offensive, as the man who produced the offensive was Robert Nivelle. Expectations were high, but after some time, it became clear that the French had failed, and for many French soldiers, this was the last straw. French soldiers had fought tirelessly for literal years, and now they refused to attack the Germans and just wanted to defend until their safety was guaranteed. And if Allied struggles weren't enough, the Russians were also having difficulties, as the Brusilov offensive, although successful, used up a lot of Russia's materials, and its poor factories couldn't keep up with the demand. And Romania also joined the war with the Entente, and did well at first, but got pummeled by the Central Powers, and forced Russia to divert even more resources to help Romania. And many Russian peasants were starving, as they literally didn't have any more food to eat, so they revolted against the government and began the Russian Revolution. So on the left here are some French soldiers after the Nivelle Offensive, and on the right there are some Russian soldiers at the Russian Revolution. So now we will learn a bit more about the Russian Revolution. As Russian citizens overthrew the monarchy, they put a new republic instead. This was called the Provisional Government, and they were led by a man named Kerensky. But this government would not last, as Kerensky wanted to continue the war, even though most people wanted to end it. But he ordered the Russian military to attack anyway, which he called the Kerensky Offensive, which was a disaster, and paved the way for a new communist government. After the fail of the Kerensky Offensive, Russian people began to look to the Soviets, people who practiced the ideology of communism. But not everyone wanted the country to be communist, and as the Soviets slowly took over, a civil war started, where one side supports the Soviets, and the other side is made up of literally everyone else. And because of this, Russia had to make a peace deal with the Germans, but Russia gave up all of modern-day Poland, Belarus, and Ukraine to the Germans, so that they only need to focus on the civil war. So on the left, you can see some Russian soldiers at the Kerensky Offensive with an armored car, and on the right, you can see some Soviet protesters at the Russian Revolution. So after seeing all this, the British decided that they had to do something to not let the Entente be annihilated, so they made offensives on the Western Front, and one of these offensives was the Battle of Vimy Ridge, which was a great victory for the British, as they managed to take all their objectives in just a few days and took a lot of German prisoners. The British made a second offensive at the Battle of Passchendaele, which was less of a great victory than what the British saw at Vimy Ridge, as the battle was frustratingly long, as whatever gains the British made would be reversed, as the Germans would counterattack and take the position that the British have just captured. So on the left here, you can see some British soldiers at the Battle of Vimy Ridge, and on the right, you can see some British soldiers at the Battle of Passchendaele. At the beginning of the war, the Italian army was in a state of disarray, but by 1917, the situation has improved a bit, and Italy was very close to accomplishing one of their goals, which is to capture the city of Trieste from Austria-Hungary. But ever since Russia has been defeated, German soldiers that were supposed to go to the Western Front for a huge offensive were diverted to the Italian front to help Austria-Hungary launch an offensive against Italy at the small city of Caporetto. And the plan worked flawlessly, as Italy was annihilated and retreated a huge amount of land, and 300,000 Italian soldiers were taken in as prisoners during the battle. So now we'll move on to 1918, the last year of the war. So in 1918, the Germans began their largest offensive of the war so far, called the Kaiserslacht, or the Kaiser's Battle. It was done to defeat all the British and French armies by capturing Paris before America could arrive in force. So it began in the spring of 1918, and at first it saw a lot of success, as the Allies were not ready and Germany took a lot of land. But even though the German advance was great, it wasn't enough, as American soldiers joined the front line and stopped the Germans. And no matter what the Germans did, they couldn't break through the new and now improved Allied line.